problems with it today. They were having problems with it with the megapixel show too. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah,
So
I think it's a Google thing for sure, because I was having trouble yesterday as well.
yeah, maybe they're getting ready to roll out the full one. Either way, we made it. So hopefully it won't get disconnected. Okay. So we're at level 29. How are you feeling?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good.
Heck of a 9 months, let me tell you.
There's been a lot of shift. You know what though? Like, artists are tortured souls. So like, the more upheaval in life, the better the work we create. That's the theory I'm going with.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so level 29, we were looking at the family album layouts.
Yep. Do you want the link, or do you have the link?
I have the link, I think.
Posted it in the community, so, but I have it open if you want to.
No, it's all right. I'll do the screen share. So tell me a little about Sphere 2 now that we're at the end of it. How are you feeling coming up to the end and doing the book layout and everything?
Well, I feel better about this book layout than I did the first one.
Okay.
And I think I had to go through the make my own templates and all that stuff. And when I did that, and now I have 15 of them or something set up so that I can change any one of them to whatever I want. It's gonna. I mean, it's still not perfect, but I'm more comfortable with it than I was when I first started, and I just assumed that the more I do it, the more comfortable I'll get. So
yeah.
I haven't ruled it out anymore like I did at the beginning. So that's a huge step. So
I totally ruled it out with anything that I was doing, even with weddings, because I hate taking the time to put them together, even though I did the thing, the hangout on it.
Yep.
Because it's still super, super time consuming for me, and I just don't like spending all the time. Have you heard of Fundy yet?
Is this you? Only from your posts that you had when you were at the show.
Yeah, so I went and taught for one of the local PPA chapters here, and Fundy was one of the sponsors at the show, and I always make it a point to like go down and go through, and usually like I'm just schmoozing and saying hi, and it's rare at this point that I come across any company that has anything really like groundbreaking or new.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched this guy do a demo and I was like, shut up and take my money right now. So it's really, really neat. I haven't, they're getting ready to send me, they're doing like their new like version 7. So I bought it, but I'm waiting for the new one to come out because it's supposed to come out next week. So I haven't gotten to play with it. But when he was doing it, it was, he like took it from Lightroom from an album and dropped the final collection in that was supposed to be album worthy, and he did it with like a boudoir and with a wedding album. Mm-hmm. And it reads off of the algorithms on Lightroom, so it auto-populated the whole album based on how many spreads he said he wanted and put the pictures in accordingly so that they would fit in that. And then as you go underneath, do you use Lightroom?
Yep.
I don't, and I'm ready to learn.
I don't know how people do photography without Lightroom.
Yeah, I don't. I never have, and I'm learning it now so that I can use this software. That's how impressed I was. Which it's not as intuitive as I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be an easy jump from.
Especially if you're used to Photoshop, because they feel different, and if you're used to one, the other is not simple.
Yeah,
no. I think they would be similar, but Adobe doesn't do it that way.
Yeah, no, my computer's been feeling bad about itself because I've been calling it lots of bad words lately. But when he did it from Lightroom, so they have like the star rating for the images. It takes that into consideration. So the higher the ranking of the image, the bigger it'll choose those images to make the feature displays on the pages, the big ones. As opposed to the little ones. It reads timestamps so that it tells the story in chronological order, but it also reads the content of the images and the colors so that it puts the black and whites on the same page. It was really neat. And then it was just like drag and drop. Like, he built the entire album in 5 minutes, and I was like, that's 5 minutes of my life you just did.
Wow. Yeah.
So, once I get the new thing, I think I'm gonna do a video for it. And play around with it, like an unboxing just so we can see how intuitive it is when you're not like the founder of the company,
Sure,
you know, because of course he knows how it works.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but he made it look so easy, and it was so easy to shift. And I immediately thought of you because you share my hatred of albums, because I don't do them. So it might be worth at least looking into. I think it was 400 and something. I got it at the show special, whatever that is, which is usually like 10 to 15%. But it was pretty awesome. I'm excited to get it and play with it. So
well, when you post something, then I'll definitely take a look at it. But I do remember seeing it, and I thought, and I briefly went and looked at it and thought, oh, well, this is an option for, you know, at some point in the future when there's actual money coming in to spend on. I think for a little while it's just going to have to be painful, and I'm going to have to do it myself until I can afford to, you know, buy something that's like this or something else that would make life a little bit easier. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look at what you did. So what did you use to design your album?
This is done in Photoshop.
Okay. How painstaking was that?
Well, I kind of cheated a little bit. I found somebody who was giving away templates. So I basically took the templates and then changed them to what was, you know, took off all of the scrolly things and all that. I don't like any of those graphical embellishments that people seem to put on there. And I took them off and I changed them up and just made them feel a little bit more like something I would do anyway. And then I saved them as my own. So, and then, you know, from there, I copied some and flipped some and that sort of thing, so that I ended up with, I think I have 15 templates altogether. So, and they're straightforward. I understand how all the layers work in there now, and I can just drop stuff in and move them around and stuff. So.
Okay. So this was the album of your family.
This is my family, yeah.
Okay.
I had to round it out a little bit. My family doesn't appreciate having their photo taken. So, so these first two spreads are actually from 2014. This is my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So the one time when we were all together, all dressed nice, all had to smile for the camera. So I took advantage and took photos. So I had to, but that's not from, you know, just to round it out and make things look a little bit better. I had to pilfer it from another year, but it still fits. So.
Okay. So tell me a little about making the album and the story you wanted to tell, and what's the overall goal for you
for this album?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the overall goal for this album was to just get my family all in one, you know, as much of 1 year or thereabouts as I could, and still have coverage of as many of us as I could without seeming like it's imbalanced. And as you go through it, you'll see, well, the two younger kids weigh heavily in a lot of the photos, and that's just the way it is. There's nothing else I can do about that. I can't change what happened in the past, right? So the photos that I have are the photos that I've got to deal with. These were the ones where no one was giving me the finger. Because sometimes they do, and it doesn't seem to matter who they are. So, and I tried to, it's not necessarily grouped chronologically, like this particular, that page is, but it's more, it was more a matter of getting the images that feel right. Like these are obviously of my son. They weren't all taken at the same time, but they were all taken during the summertime. Stuff that he loves to do, and images of him that I love, and that he likes as well. This was just, you know, stuff the kids do, you know, whether it's video games or playing in the pool or hanging out in the yard. So it's all part of what they do, right? So whether they're playing on their iPads or video games, it's still part of their life. So I capture it. This page here is really that page that you just passed. The very few photos I have of my oldest daughter, she's best friends with my niece. And so the one photo of them sitting in the kitchen there, that actually is probably the best photo of them that I've got. And they both love it as much as I do, because their whole life, that's where they sit.
Okay.
On my kitchen floor, exactly like that. So they really appreciate that photo. And that kind of photo is the kind of photo that means something. And that's why I put it in there. When they see it, they understand immediately what it means. It might not mean anything to anybody else, but to the people looking at it, there's a huge significance to those.
Mm.
And she and my niece moved away, so they don't see each other anymore. Actually, the photos of them hugging there, that was the last day that was the day before she she moved out west. So
Okay.
so anyway, yeah. Someday I'm going to make an album of just the photos I have of those two. So
I love it.
yeah, because they're a silly couple. Again, just photos. These are just photos of my son. I tried to group them all together so that they weren't, so they meant something. So each page would be for a person in particular,
Okay. Oh, I love this.
Lacey will do almost anything I ask her to do. So these photos were, I was working on something in particular. I had a concept in mind, and she just jumps to it and says, okay, and we go and take photos. So, and she just loves to do it. And, yeah, he's pretty good too about, when I was trying to play around with Flash and things over the summertime, they just, okay, and they come and they play. She was dancing around, and I love that series. I might get that printed for a wall. It's just what they do in the wintertime. I like this one too. She baked cookies. I had a photo walk get together. Everybody came over. She wanted to make something for everybody to have. And so I took photos and she made cookies, and it's a fantastic story.
Aww.
Yeah, she passed away this year, so that's a special page. It's Christmas Eve with my family. They all came over, and that's Christmas morning.
And that's the last page.
That's the last page. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3.
15, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a few things. I love that this is sort of a bigger story collectively of the family. I think you have a couple of different ways that you can go with this from the standpoint of actually monetizing and working for potential clients.
Mm-hmm.
Some of there's a few things that we can work on. One, I think that this spread works for you because it's your family and you know what's going on, but I don't think that it works from the standpoint of anybody outside it. Now, that might not necessarily be a problem because you're doing family portraits, and chances are most of the people seeing it are family and friends who
Right.
will immediately know it. But it's the kind of thing that, like, one of your daughter's friends won't necessarily know who the other extended members of the family are.
No.
And even when it's people looking at it that know everybody involved, it should still tell a story. I'm not sure. One, I don't think that this is the strongest page to start an album with. And two, I'm not sure that it quite has a story in itself on this spread. We might have to do some reorganizing. So we were saying it's the 50-year anniversary. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So this would be a good image to start with.
Mm-hmm.
For the beginning and the wedding, and then a picture of them. I'm guessing this is them.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we had this picture and that picture, I can discern the story from that.
Right.
Even better if we shoot more like event photography thing and had something that said 50-year wedding anniversary, or an inviter or something like that, just something that tells the story a little bit. Then we can take that and ascertain that all of these other images are family celebrating this sort of legacy of love coming in. I love the look he's giving you, like, don't take my picture.
Yeah, it's my brother-in-law. I think either the frame before or after has the finger in it. So
yeah. So I'd be inclined to make these two one image and make it the image of the couple, and then move the other images that are on this spread off and over to the first page. But this would be the first page of the album if you wanted to start with it. You actually have two stories going here. So since the rest of it seems to be pretty much your kids and your immediate family, I would probably drop that from the spread because your story is here with your kids, which is totally fine to do as well. Same kind of thing. I think that you have some really stellar images and spreads that would work better as the intro to the story. You're not, the first and the last page should pretty much tell the story. It should be the synopsis of the book. So people should be able to know what's coming immediately from that. So this is obviously all your kids, but I don't think these are necessarily the strongest images of them or that you have to offer as a photographer. This spread is fantastic. This one and that one should all be grouped with the first one of your son fishing as well. Like we can start and tell the story with the individual spreads of the kids going back and forth, because I love the dichotomy between the action shots and that you have these little mini stories on the pages. This is going to be a real strength of yours, I think. Specifically, I'm very much in love with this spread of the whole thing, because now we have the dichotomy of the fine art style that you do that I love, and I think that you do exceptional black and white work as well that makes it a little more emotional and a little more raw, and really just, you know, it really does tap into the emotional aspect of it that everybody can relate to, whether it's the nostalgia of being a child and making cookies, or being a parent and watching your kids get old enough to make cookies instead of just eat them, you know. So I like that we're seeing these different personality elements, and I do think that it's stronger to break them up so that we don't have all the images of her in like 3 spreads in a row, that we're differentiating between the kids. But I do think that they're strong stories. This is another one that's a great spread and definitely a member of the family, and it's awesome to see the relationship between the dog and the children, but also to have it really be about the dog as his own entity in the thing. This is another one that's a story realm. But then I think some of the other pictures that we picked were kind of fillers. Like this one tells the story too, you know, snow outside, you know, playtime kind of thing is its own story. This is a great spread as a film strip. I love this one of childhood, really, because that's pretty much everybody's child at some point in their life. I love the fine art. I love these spreads together. I do think that it works stronger visually if you keep them all in line with each other. So you have like these really beautiful color photographs and these really beautiful color photographs that are like these fine art portraiture kind of images. And then it goes to color and black and white. So it doesn't quite translate visually. Like I'd like to see the color theory kind of continue through. But I like all of these images and I love your black and white work. So it can be sort of a trade-off. And this spread actually works really well, but it's the kind of thing that I think because you lead with color, this one would probably come after this one. And then it would be a good transition because we leave off the color in the middle of the spread and go to the black and white. And then the image that follows is in black and white so that your eyes just kind of follow the color story as well. So it's a lot of the layouts work really well. I just think that we could probably like just take the spreads and reorganize them a little and make the story a little stronger. I love this one of their relationship. I love this story of that being their spot, because those are the things that start to matter. Like that's the kind of thing that 20 years from now, one of them walks in and goes, you know, your aunt and I, or your great grandmother, you know, whatever, used to sit here with me for hours and we would sit and talk on that.
On the kitchen floor.
I love the little details of this, like the drawing on the hand is super cute.
It's again something every kid does.
Yeah.
Drives us all crazy as parents, but they all do it.
Yeah. This would definitely follow really well after the image of the color one with his arms on the bench fading to black and white, this would be a really good sequel to that one to go in between that one and the one, the film strip of your little girl jumping. And then this would probably follow more towards the middle and the end. So I love the idea, this spread, and the idea of an album that's like extended family, but I think you would have to have a lot more pictures of other members of your family, aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, grandparents, that kind of thing. If it's going to include other people besides your children, I think we need more than just like 2 or 3 photos of other people to make it interspersed, because then the rest is the kids. So I think you have a beautiful album of your immediate family right now. And these are great moments and definitely images you want to treasure, but they don't fit in with the current story that the rest of the album is telling. Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yeah.
Okay. So I would get rid of these 2 and I would save them for later for like a big family album, which may be something that gets created, you know, over the course of a couple of years and isn't ready for another couple of years, and a few other holiday events and weddings and births and, you know, the milestones is really when all the extended family comes together. At least in mine, it's holidays, weddings, and funerals.
Right.
I love this one because it's all 3 of them, and I love the idea of the kids interacting with each other, but this is more traditional snapshot photography, and I think that your strength comes in them interacting with each other. Like I'm more drawn and have more of an emotional connection to these kind of shots than I do them just sitting and posing for the camera. This one's cute too. So it might be that these get broken up and just kind of interspersed, especially again, if we're telling the story, like these are, you know, your youngest and your oldest.
Yep.
Okay. So if we were going to do the shot of her on the floor with her best friend, then it would make sense that the next spread would have your oldest and your youngest. And then the next spread after that would be, say, this one or the one of her making cookies. Again, following the story. Here's my oldest with her best friend and my niece. Here's my oldest with my youngest. Here's my youngest. You know, so you can just follow the progression of the storyline without really thinking too hard about it. But I really love these kind of action shots. I think they're a lot more potent and you get a lot more energy and emotion from them when you're doing this kind of stuff, as opposed to just having them kind of cheese for the camera.
Yeah.
Of
course, the difference between this and any other work is I'm part of what's going on too, right? So
right.
It's not like these aren't my clients, it's my family. So you're not, I don't shoot the same way because of that, you know, because I'm also part of it. I'm also part of what's going on. And sometimes all they can get is them cheesing me for the camera. You know? So you take what you can get because they're your family and you're part of what's going on as well. So I don't think necessarily that it's a good representation of something that you would show clients, for example. You know what I mean? I
don't think that it's not, depending on what it is that you want to show clients, because I think the potency comes in that this is your family. So you know all the stories. And so, for example, if you're selling lifestyle kind of photography and, hey, you can have me come in and capture these kind of moments for you, something that's going to be really powerful is like the story that you were telling about your oldest daughter, and the fact that her and her best friend, your niece, sit in this spot all the time when they talk for hours on end since they were, you know, so little, and she moved. Now, you know, hearing that story, the other people that are looking through the album are going, oh, I know exactly what you mean. My son and his best friend always sit on the third step and nobody can walk around them. It makes me crazy. And, you know, like, it's, people don't form an emotional connection to the people in the photographs. They form an emotional connection to your work because that reminds them of their relationships with significant people in their life.
Right.
Which is where I think the potency comes in with you specifically, because these moments become everything that matters later, you know, because someday this is going to be a 50-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
And people just, we don't think about that. And they certainly aren't thinking about that. And we forget things like, you know, your daughter's thinking about is baking cookies, and the fact that they're going to be delicious and that she's making them. Like, she's thinking about measuring cups and flour and how many eggs and how big the spoonful of dough should be and how long they have to be in the oven. She's not realizing that 20 years from now or 30 years from now, when she's a mom and has her own kids and she's doing this, that she's going to go right back to that moment and think of her mother and her in the kitchen making cookies. This is why we take the photos. This is why it's important to have these and not just the smiling snapshots. Because smiling snapshots are great, but they're anybody's kid.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're your kid, but they look the same as anybody else's kid. So as much as I love these kind of shots that are more traditional, you're very powerful in being able to tell me exactly who he is. I have such a feel for his personality and who he is as a person already, and you get to the heart of that, and a lot of them don't. And I don't feel necessarily that the first images are quite as strong, because these look like anybody's kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, smile for mom, cheese for the camera, cute,
so
great.
All I'm saying is, though, that I'm putting to you, the task was to put together a family album. This
yeah,
is
absolutely.
that I have as a family album, not necessarily as a client album. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and I think the trade-off is that, you know all the stories, and you do have a different relationship, which could be better or worse. Like, your daughter's like game for whatever, and somebody else's kid might not be, because they don't know you or they're shy or whatever. So it can be a balance. And at the same time, they're more likely to go, ugh, you have a million pictures of me, which makes it really difficult. But at the same time, I absolutely think that you should treat your own images and your own heirlooms and your own albums with the same exact kind of potency and power and dedication to the heirlooms that they become, and ask that everybody else treats them the same. And if that doesn't work, then ground them. But get the shot. No, I'm glad that you put it together. And even though you're probably right, and it's not necessarily a representative of what you would create for a client, I think a lot of it is. You know, there's a lot of the beauty that I really love in your work. You know, it's interesting because you have such a dichotomy in your style that I don't see in a lot of other photographers. Like, usually when they find their thing, their voice artistically, you can see that sort of resonate through all their work. But you have like artistic multiple personality disorder, because your black and white images have such a different feel and energy and visual appeal and strikingness to them. And your color images have this like fine art painting portrait kind of quality to them, that's totally separate. They really are like two opposite sides of the same coin, but they work together, which is really really unique. And I think that that's going to be a big selling feature that they're not going to get with anybody else, because it appeals to a lot of different personal tastes, but it also appeals to different sides of the personality of the people that you're capturing. Like, the images of your son, you know, fishing, and, you know, even though we have like the same kind of images, then of the girl, or like your daughter, like the images that we got of the cookies and of jumping just have such a different quality to them than the fine art images, and they're both precious in very, very different ways. So the ability to hand both of those over to the parents that are, you know, putting them to bed every night and waking up with them a day older, you know, that's going to be a really, really strong emotional attachment to them, which is good, because that means you can charge more money. So I like that you have both of them. I think that's really strong, but I definitely think that there's a client album in there. I would say 10. You've like 10 spreads in there. That would be a good solid client album that I could easily sell to any of my clients for a couple $1,000. Easy, which is good. That's what I wanted to see from you. So Um, I was really moved by your work in the first critique that we did, and looking at your work from the beginning, but I definitely think that you're continuing to hone in on, you know, your voice and your personal style and really start to put that together as a collective conversation of images, which I think is really potent. How are you feeling now that you're about through Sphere 2? Are you feeling more confident about the work? How are you feeling about the business? How are you feeling about it coming together as something that you can offer clients?
Definitely feeling better than, I mean, obviously it's a process, right? At the beginning, it's just scary as shit and you don't know what's happening, right?
Well summed up.
Well, really it is. But as you go through it, and it took me a long time because I got so many things sort of happening at once. And of course, like I said earlier in some of the comments in the community, is that I didn't really go through it really very linear, the same way the levels were written. So I found myself working like a little bit over here on something, and then I would get sidetracked and move on to something else, and it felt for a long time like nothing was really happening. And I was just kind of pedaling and not really moving forward. But but they were all just little pieces, right? And then the pieces started to create sort of a larger picture that I could see what was happening. And clarity makes a world of difference. Once you start to see things actually coming together, it makes a huge difference in believing that it can actually become something, right? So I'm very close now, and I do feel pretty confident about, I mean, it depends on the day. Today I feel pretty confident. Last week maybe I wasn't so much, but you know, and even on those days I know that it's that's me, that's not anything outside, and the work hasn't changed, and what I believe hasn't changed. My mood has just changed, and so, you know, I just have to wait until it passes, and then, okay, you know, it is still a viable thing that I know that I can do. So I am feeling pretty confident about it, and the last 9 months have been a lot of work, but totally worth it, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of difference in you as well. Maybe more so than the work. Like, there's a lot of difference in your energy and your confidence and how you're speaking about yourself and your work, which is really, really good to see, because I knew it was there, which makes me really happy.
It's a conscious effort. Absolutely. There's no, it didn't just morph overnight or anything, or happen by accident. It's definitely something that I've done intentionally. So, you know, go forward as you mean to continue. That's, you know, it's got to be positive. That's there is only one way to do that. So that's why you see the difference. So there is a difference.
Yeah, there is. And you're absolutely right. It is a very conscious effort when you're trying to shift perspective. And you'd think that'd be easier for us as artists and photographers, but it isn't. It's really hard. It's one of the hardest things that we do. And I don't necessarily think that it gets easier. You know, like, I think a lot of people expect that when you find your thing, or you find the right path in life, or the right relationship, or whatever it is, that, you know, things click into place and it gets easy, but it doesn't. You get stronger and you get better. And the more that you do it, the easier it becomes to carry everything that you're carrying, which is a lot. You know, I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for it, you know, as parents and as spouses and as career people and as artists. Like, there's so much all the time that we're juggling and carrying around. And, you know, it's like being able to lift weights, and you start and you're on the 5 pounds, and then a year later you're lifting 100 pounds. You know, the weight didn't get lighter. You know, it just is easier because you're stronger, and you've been doing a lot of growth and a lot of reps this sphere with me, and I've been really, really impressed with how much you have done. It's been really inspiring to watch, you know, and so nobody else gets to make excuses. So now what? Now you're at level 29. What do you want to see from here on out? Where do you feel like the next steps are?
Well, I made a couple of notes, because I was like, okay, so I'm at 29. So what's 30? I don't really know. I had to reread what you had written. And I think that, you know, at the end, I'll just sort of wrap up, finish the last few things. I have some more pricing that I have to work on for not just albums, but for enlargements, canvases, and things like that, because obviously I want more than just the album. You know, I mean, people are going to want to hang stuff on the wall or whatever. So I have to finish that sort of thing. And I have a few more things to do with how to sort of get it out into the world at the very beginning. And my initial thought was, you know, just blanket email everybody, because I have a list of about 100 people that I've had face-to-face, you know, over the last year or so that I could email with something. And but I think that what I might do at first is just invite a couple of key people to join me in and invite them into doing something with me specifically, that I know are people that have supported me from the very beginning, that I think would be a really good fit for this kind of thing, and offer them something. I don't know what the offer is though yet, but, you know, to offer them something so they really feel like they can't refuse the invitation, you know. So I'm still sure I have some stuff penned out, but I've really nothing concrete yet on that. The other things are things like business kind of things, like a contract. I have to have something. I'm sure you have something. It's never really come up in any conversation that I've seen with either myself or anybody else, even in our sphere. Dealing with clients and having a contract in place is something that I have to have. So that's something I need to do too, as well as get insurance.
Okay.
The nuts and bolts kinds of things that I have to have in place because they're necessary, right? So.
Okay. Contracts, insurance, business and marketing. How are you feeling about your prices right now?
I think I'm, you know, for right now anyway, I have an introductory for the day in the life of $14.95, only because I need to build a more of a base and get some more experience and be able to, you know, to really sort of hone it more before I can say, you know, it's worth twice that much.
Okay.
And I also need to see really what the market really is going to say. Hey, yeah, that's great. Or, you know, we love it, but, you know, so that is a number that works for me, that pays the album, that pays my time. And doesn't pay, and pays more than, you know, minimum wage for my time, you know what I mean? So based on the number of hours that the session that I did with Ron and his family, working on the editing and things like that, that's a number that I can survive on and be okay, and not feel like I'm giving myself away and still be fair, right?
How long is it taking you to shoot, edit, and return an album? What do you think the time is on that?
The lead time, I haven't worked in the lead time like for printing and things. I think the lead time is about 2 weeks that the lab needs in order to get the album actually produced. But I'm somewhere between, say, 15 and 20 hours of work between the shoot and consult and the reveal afterwards. You know, like I went to his house and the family all sat around and we did it on their smart TV and showed the proof album and things like that. All that, taking all of that into consideration, it's between 15 and 20 hours.
Okay. And how many days is that getting spread out for you? Because you have family and you have normal life and everything else getting in the way as well.
And I have, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day. Like I have the same kind of, you know, full-time 30 to 40 hours a week that I could commit and still not impact anything else. So it's certainly doable.
Okay.
And you know.
So at $14.95, how many sessions do you want to be doing a month?
2 would be lovely.
Okay.
but you know, I don't know what that would be, you know, if I could get 1 a month, financially speaking, that would be fantastic. If I could do 2, then that would be even more fantastic.
Okay.
And still, you know, and not be insane. You know, if I had any more than that, then I would just be, my lead times would get longer and things like that. You
okay.
know what I mean?
So two a month is what fits in
and I
comfortably.
think it's reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. And that's good, because that would give you essentially like 3,000 of income, give or take. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can go from there. Okay, that's good. And I totally think that's doable. Would you like to stay here for another sphere? Because I know you came from Ron's, and he's starting sphere 3 I think he did start sphere 3 a couple of weeks ago, and I think he's doing portrait as well. I think
Well,
he's
he's
doing
doing
portrait
it's.
and
I think it's a
landscape.
general sphere, but it's
Yeah,
goal oriented. So if I wanted to do portrait, he would write something for me. So
right.
have
Um,
already sort of because I work so well with him, and he understands how I learn, and I understand how he teaches, and there's this. We have a really good ability to work together, and he can get stuff out of me that he's always had that ability to do.
yeah.
So I'm highly motivated to sort of think in that direction.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
but
you're
at this point, I was leaving it sort of open because I wasn't really sure.
okay. Well, I definitely think, business contracts, insurance, marketing, pricing
Mhm.
is definitely something that if you want to focus on would be a good sphere 3 focus here. However, I do think that information is only part of it, and
Right.
where you feel inspired and where you feel empowered. Basically, the energy that you have now, I want to keep expanding on that. So if
Mhm.
you feel that studying under Ron for another sphere, now that he's able to offer portraiture and more one-on-one, is going to continue to bring that out and help amplify that, then that's where you should be, because it's also not like if you have a question about contracts or insurance that you can't come and drop me a line, even if you're not in my sphere 3. You pretty much have like an open window to drop me a line anytime with anything that's going on. And honestly, Ron's really good with the business and the marketing as well.
Completely is as well. I'll be honest, and it's good that I'm live because there's no way that I would have been able to do this without both of you on board to help me.
Yeah,
The work that I've done, he absolutely had a hand in doing. So,
exactly.
and part of that is because we're good friends, and part of that is because we're geographically close. So a
Hmm.
lot of the consultation he sat at the dining room table with me, and we worked out a lot of this stuff, and it was really, really helpful for me to have that. And I know that I can still have that even in a sphere with him, or even outside of that, because we're friends already. So I know that between you and between him, that I would be able to get that information, and which is just like you said, it's just information, right? So
Yeah. Well,
um,
you have the option for both. I'm pretty sure he hasn't filled it yet. I don't even know that there's enough people at Sphere 3 to fill a Sphere
right.
3 sphere right now. So I would spend a day or two, work on your level 30. Drop me a line if you have anything specific that you want me to look over. And really just kind of feel out, because you've had a sphere with both of us. He works really well and he understands you, and you guys have a really great relationship. I will kick your ass into gear. That's I'm the person that you need when you need someone to yell at you, and he's probably more the person that you need when you're like, I got it. I don't need anybody, pushing me off the training wheels.
Right.
I just need someone to keep me going and give me guidance along the way. So whichever is better fitting where you are, and I think you're at a point now where you can be really honest about that with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and what'll suit you. But I would say either way, if Ron's custom building sphere 3s for individual people, keeping the focus, I think your art's there. I can sell your art at my prices right now without blinking an eye very easily. So, obviously we're always honing in on our craft, but I definitely think that your focus for sphere 3 should be towards the business and marketing, towards making sure the prices work, and probably just figuring out the ways to package the pricing so that it doesn't sound intimidating for clients, where they're likely to go, I'm not going to invest that much money, because it is a lot of money. It's more than
It is
most
a lot of
people's
money, for sure.
mortgages.
There's definitely an investment there, and that was one of the things that has been holding me back on the pricing. The rest of the add-ons is pricing it in such a way so that it's a natural progression, that they don't go, oh my gosh, and have all kinds of sticker shock. And I know that there's a way to do it. I just need to sit down and rethink about it, so that they're not surprised, and it just becomes a natural progression of, I mean, they're already there, they've already committed to the price with the album, and they've already seen it and touched it, and they've already, if it's an extended family, their parents are sitting there going, yes, we want this album too, and it just becomes the pricing doesn't get in the way. I don't want the pricing to get in the way, so I just have to figure it out. So
Your
it's been
first
for a while.
I'd say your first 10 clients are the most difficult, because you're pricing out of where you were,
Mm-hmm.
and you're learning the process of selling a high-end product. But at that point, people start to go to them and go, oh my God, I love this picture. Where'd you get it done? And chances are that who we are is who we hang with most of the
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
we're in a certain neighborhood, all of our neighbors are in a similar financial situation because most of the houses in the neighborhood are selling for the same kind of price. And
Exactly.
most of the people and families are in the same kind of financial situation as well. So if they can afford it, their family, their neighbors, their friends can probably afford it because we meet those people at places that usually are an investment of money or are a place that are giving us money. Like, where do all your friends come from? They come from work, they come from other connections, they come from places you go so they can afford to eat at the same restaurants. They're working at the same place and getting paid the same amount of money. So then it becomes, then you just hit that plateau where everybody can pretty much afford you because they're in that place. So it's
Exactly.
just getting the first couple. As far as price, I don't think that your price is off at all.
No.
I think $14.95 is fine. I don't know exactly how much you're paying for your albums, but if you've looked at the numbers and you're going, after I pay for the album and I pay for whatever my other expenses and overhead are, I'm bringing in enough money to make my family very happy and comfortable. That's all I care about. And if you can do that on 2 sessions a month, I think that's great. If you go and hand this album to people and go, it's $1,500 or $14.95, which is $1,500, they'll round it up to, you're going to get a lot of, you know, because it's a lot of money, even for people that can afford it. Like, I can definitely afford it, but there's also plenty of other things I can think of to spend $1,500 on right now, you know? So that's the trade-off, is the sell, and it's usually buyer's remorse that gets them right before and directly after, as far as how much money they're spending. So the fastest way to quiet that is to make it as low risk as possible, because it's a gamble. Every time somebody invests a significant amount of money in anything, they are gambling that all of that money and all the work it took to save up that money is going to be worth whatever they're getting out of it. And sometimes it isn't, whether they're buying, you know, an appliance that breaks a year later, or they pay for the session and then they're like, these aren't really that much better than any other photo I've ever had taken. Why did I pay $1,000 more than I usually spend? So it's a trade-off. So for me, when clients come in for a session, it's 500, which is much easier to swallow. And that $500 credit towards anything that they want to buy, because then I'm pretty much saying that it's me taking on the risk. Because if I don't create enough images to make you want to spend 2,000, I didn't do my job and I don't deserve to get paid. As opposed to if I say, hey, it's $3,000 for a session, you have to come in and spend that. I'm going to create what I create, and I did my job. I took your picture, I gave you product, therefore that's what you get. So with them having the ability to pick and select what it is that they're getting, they're only buying what they really want. Now, the trade-off to that is that you can't do that unless you're doing the sale at a reveal. So for me, I do it on the same day. You might not be doing that. You might go through and edit and then do a reveal a week or two or even a month later. But what I would do is I would think about having a reservation fee that is to book the session. That is non-refundable. That is to get the date on your calendar, which means it's blocked out for everyone else. And then you can decide what your policy is on that. For me, if somebody calls, one, if they've put 500 down on anything and I say it's non-refundable, they're not canceling unless it's something important. Somebody's sick, somebody's dying, something amazing is happening for them to want to cancel. Usually I'll just reschedule and let them put another date on the calendar. I won't refund the money, but I'll let them put it towards a different date. If they just cancel, I don't refund the money unless it's, and actually I don't know that I've ever had that, but I wouldn't refund the money. But I would say that whatever that fee is that you feel comfortable, whether it's $200 or $500, whatever makes it worth it for you to take that day off your calendar, I would say that's a print credit towards whatever they choose to buy at the reveal. So, and you can set that up however you want. So for me, if they invest that $500 and they don't want to spend any more money, $500 is the price for an 11 by 14 for me. So they can buy an 11 by 14 with that money, walk out with one image that's their favorite from the session, and not spend a dime more, which is what I would recommend. So whether it's like a matted in framed print of the family that they can pick one family photo that they're getting, or you know, a smaller album or a series of 10 8x10s or 5x7s, however you want to do that, I would pick one product that is equal to the price that they are putting down. So they know at minimum they're walking away with that, and that they're not going to get necessarily upsold into anything else. Like, oh, it's $500, but you can't have anything unless you spend $1,500. That's a lie. You know, that's a hooker trick.
Yeah.
But if you had $14.95 and you charged $4.95, and $4.95 happened to be the price of, say, an 8x10 matted and framed, which would still give you a nice profit off of it to make it worth your day. For me, I'm only editing one image then, because I don't edit until they pick them out.
Right.
I don't know if that's your process or not, or if that's something that you.
Well, the editing is because it's almost apples and oranges the way what you produce and what I produce. So the editing is really not like your stuff is fine art. I mean, it's highly retouched and edited, and you spend a lot of time on that. I don't really spend that much time on that. There may be a handful that I spend time really cloning out things and really making it something that you could put on the wall.
Okay.
But the stuff because most of this stuff is going into an album and telling a story altogether, I don't need to worry about retouching the pimple off every kid's face. Like, and I'm not gonna do that. And that's there is no expectation, and there should not be any expectation that that's what I'm going to do, because the whole point of what I'm doing is capturing their life right now. And their life right now is your 13-year-old has acne on his face. Unless it's really, really horrible, I'm not going to really do too much to get rid of it on 400 photos. Like, it's not a feasible thing either. I mean, then the thing becomes, my time then becomes either really invaluable, or the thing becomes priced to the point where nobody's going to want it. And
right.
The feel of those photos, there's really not a lot of editing happening there. The story is the powerful thing in those photos, not,
Yeah, so
the story's not there. It doesn't matter how much editing I've done to it. It's not going to say anything anyway. So why would I spend that much time on it?
Yeah.
So if I was doing more fine art stuff, then it would be different. But that's not really the focus of what these photos are or how I take them. They happen I've never shot anything like that before. I mean, for 6 hours, I don't stop shooting for 6 hours. There's 1,200 photos, and just culling them took, a long time just to get through the editing of just flagging them, never mind actually even editing anything. So it's a different sort of editing workflow process than a traditional kind of portrait session.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But still, well, yeah, and I do think that you'll have a hard time if you're returning 1,200 images. The culling definitely.
Well, I took 1,200 images. The proof I showed them was just the flagged photos was over 300.
Okay.
From there, the proof album that I showed them was about 170, I think. And
are you doing basic retouching on all of them? Or are they
basic exposure and basic, like it's basic, and then from there, I have the way that I do the black and white thing is, you can batch edit, if the lighting is similar and these bunch, then you do your edit to make it look the way you want. And then you can quickly go through and get that same edit across the rest of them in that same grouping. So it's definitely made me get a lot faster in how I do that, because I normally would spend, because it's my own family, I would spend a whole lot more time because I can, right? But when it was, I was really aware of the fact that I was dealing with, these are client photos, I can't look at it the same way. I have to pay attention to the time that I'm taking for each one of these images, because the amount of time multiplied by hundreds of images is really going to add up. So
right. And that's my concern, is that time being disproportional, especially if they end up only ordering a couple of images. Well,
and so the idea of the day in the life session is that they're getting an album out of it.
Okay.
That's part of the price. So the $14.95 is, you're getting my time for 6 hours. I'm going to be your fly on the wall for, the day, basically. And when you fit, you're going to see all those images, and then you're going to get an album that's going to be gorgeous album, and it's going to have up to 40 pages, depending on the stories that are there. And all of that fits into the price. So I don't have to work, like that price is based on the biggest album that I could make.
Okay.
So if it's only half that, I'm making a bit more money, right? So that price
Right.
isn't gonna, it all fits into that quite nicely. And so they're getting that album and my time as that. So when they walk away, they're getting that album. It's going to be, you know, leather bound or whatever choices that they've made on that. But that's what they're already getting. The add-ons and then are in addition to that. So if grandma and grandpa want an album, then, you know, there's a price for that. And if they want canvases for their walls, or if they want these little presentation boxes that I found that I absolutely think are fantastic for kids, then there's a price for that as well. And I want to have samples that they can see and touch those as well, because you have to see and touch them to really get a feel for how good they are.
So what if they don't want an album? What if they just want the presentation boxes?
They don't want the day in the life package then, because that's, I mean, and then, you know, if we wanted to do a couple hour session, and I have that as well, but the thing that I've been focusing on is this day in the life session is what I've been focusing the energy on. If they just want me for a couple hours, then I have a session price. They can, you know, it's $200 for an hour. I'll come and take photos of their family.
Well, no, I'm not. You're mixing up two different things. You're mixing up the service that you're offering with the product that you're offering. And those are very, very separate, different things. And it's an interesting industry that we're in, because we're two different people. We're service providers and we're product providers. So with that, my concern comes in that you're making choices for people that is going to turn people away from making the investment in one because they don't want the other. So it's very possible that I might want to hire you to come and do a day in the life session of me and my family, but that I don't want a big album, that I either want digitals or that I want loose prints and not all bound in a book. And so some of these other products and add-ons that you're offering might be what their primary is. And, you know, as a parent, I'm sure you can agree, like the schools send to, at least in America, like the schools send home like the packages of pictures, and you're like, I only really need 2 5x7s, but in order to get the 20 wallets I need to upgrade to 10 5x7s that I don't need. And then you end up with stacks of pictures in the drawer, which is why nobody ever buys school pictures, because they hate that they have to get a whole lot of what they don't necessarily want in order to get what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know, you get to set your business up however you want. My strong suggestion would be to consider what the service of going and creating a life in the day is. And then, and it may be that it's still that $14.95. And I would price for your most expensive product, which is probably the album. The albums usually are the biggest expense that you spend money on as the photographer. But find comparables and see what it is that the client actually wants. Because if all of their family, like my sister's getting ready to move to Texas, they just changed her duty station. You know, chances are we won't see my nephews for the next 3 years, and they're 3 weeks, 1 year, and 3 years. So they're at an age that 3 years is going to make a huge difference in their life. She's very, very likely right now to covet digital prints that she can send all of us that she's leaving behind. So, you know, an album isn't going to do anything for her because she's not going to have anyone to share it with, you know, or they're just digital people now, or, you know, they don't want an album that you have to sit and flip through, but they want 20 different wall prints that they can send, or prints that they can send to different people that are loose and not all together as a collection. So something that might be good for you to do is just some recon work with potential clients, calling up friends and family or the people on your list. I think that'd be a really good level 30, and just ask them, you know, if we did this kind of session, would you want an album? Would you want digital? You know, what kind of prints or products would you want, and what kind of context? Mm-hmm. Just to see if what you're offering is actually what they want to buy. Because if it isn't, then you might have the service right, but not have the product right. Or you might have a beautiful product and we have to amend the service, like you said, to something that's just 2 or 3 hours because they don't want to give up their whole day. But this is where like we really start to fine tune what's going on. But don't think that because they don't necessarily want an album, that doesn't mean that they don't want the day in the life service that you're offering and your eye and your style and the way that only you can capture it, just because they want it in a different finish. Does that make sense?
Sort of. The focus for me for this entire thing has been to get away from digital. I don't want to give away digital prints. There are literally in my little tiny, there's, I don't know, 1,000 people live in my village. I bet you there's 6, 8 photographers who will do the $50 shoot and burn. That's what people think they want. I don't want that person who wants digital prints. I don't want to sell to that person. Digital prints are not.
You're confusing.
Like,
you're confusing digital prints with print and burn. If my clients want a digital archive of 20 images, they pay $3,000. If they want a box with prints, they pay $3,000. The images do not become less valuable because they're not printed, and they don't take any less time for me to shoot or create or edit. You don't have to be a $50 print, shoot and burn photographer just because they want digital. But we live in a digital age. We're sitting right now having conversations across country lines, you know, so it is something to take into consideration. If it's important to you for your art and the way that you see things to have an album specifically or to have it in print, then maybe digitals are something that you add on. But I will tell you that the higher you price that price tag, the more you have to understand what it is that your clients are willing to spend that money on. You know, so it's very, very likely that someone will look at your images and, you know, it's also very, very common that what you show is what you'll get hired for. So if you really wanted to sell albums and only albums, then I would say that you don't upload individual prints to your website. You upload the spreads of the albums so that people see them in that format, so that they get it in their head that that's what they're getting immediately. If that's absolutely where you want to be, then that's, you know, that's what you should be showing, because you get hired for the work that you show. But don't confuse what it is you're offering with what it is that you think that you're offering or what other people are offering. You know, if people, I guess, okay, so my question is, if I want to hire you to come down and I'm willing to pay that $1,500, but I don't want an album, I just want digital, are you not going to do that? Or are you going to turn away the money?
I don't know why you would come to me for that.
Doesn't matter.
Digital.
Because I love the art and I love the style and I love what you're capturing, but I don't want an album. I want those moments and I want them in digital so I can send them to my family.
Right.
But regardless of why, if I'm willing to hire you and I'm willing to pay you,
I would be willing to do that with you, but I wouldn't be willing to advertise that that's what I'm doing. Do
Okay,
you
well
know what I mean?
then, well, yeah, and that's okay too.
So if you want to hire me and all you want is digital prints, sure, but I'm not going to advertise that I'm going to do this for $1,500 and you're going to get digital prints, because that's not really what I want to do.
Okay, I'm okay with that as long as you're okay with the business that you're losing as a result of that. And it's totally personal preference, like it is. There's plenty of stuff that I don't shoot that I could make a ton of money shooting that I don't do because I don't want to do it. You know, whether it's the subject matter, you know, like children, I get asked about children's portraits all the time. Why they say women in lingerie and go to children's portraits, I don't know. You know, but I do it once a year for the Giving Tree sessions, and that's it, because I don't want to do it all year. I would pull my hair out, and I do not have the head to go bald. I can't Sinead it. So I'm totally fine with that, as long as you understand what it is you're offering and what you're not and why, and the integrity of the art and the style that you want that represented is important enough to you to give up the income. And that's totally a personal thing. And I think people feel like they're selling out if they go, well, I'd really like it to be this, but I'll offer this in order to get paid, kind of thing. You know, if you don't have on there that you do digital prints, then chances are people that are looking for digital will scope right by you. So if you're fine for the guy down the street getting that $1,500, that's totally okay.
Except I don't think, well, yes, I am okay with that. That
Okay.
basically is, yes, I'm okay with that, because I truly don't think that people who are looking for digital for this kind of thing are going to pay $1,500 for it.
They pay me $3,000 for 20 images on digital.
But it's still apples and oranges, though.
I don't think that it is, though. I know plenty of people that do family photography and stuff like that. The price has nothing to do with digital. I know a lot of photographers that sell their digitals now for exactly the same price that they sell their prints for. I agree with you that you can't shoot and burn for $50. I agree that you cannot be that photographer. That's not what I'm asking. It's just a product. You know, whether it's printed on Fuji film or etching paper, you know, hand imported from Italy, and each pigment is hand stitched by a little person in China. I don't care. It doesn't take me any less or more time to create it. So if you have an aversion to digital because you don't want your images seen on a screen and you're willing to give up the income for that, I'm fine with that. But if the only reason you're not offering it is because you feel like you can't charge $1,500 for digital, that's a lie. So it's just something to think of and for you to decide, because you do. Like, it is always, you know, it's time or money is always what we're arguing. And with artists, it's integrity. I only feel like you're selling out if you're doing something that you hate doing. If it's causing you to grit your teeth because you hate digital, that's one thing. If you hate digital because you see other photographers selling them for $50 and you don't want to be that, that's totally different. That's very easy, you know. But if, for me, I make more money when I sell digital. Even though it's the same price, I make more money when I sell digital than I do when I sell an album, because I don't have the couple $100 of overhead. So, you know, it's the kind of thing that you can very easily offer a high res archive for the same exact price and put more money in your pocket, you know, and maybe nobody takes you up on that. Maybe 99.9% of people do the albums. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, I would like to hire you for the service of your photography, but I would like it in this format, I don't think it's any different. I don't think it's any different. It's just a different medium. The reason that people are still getting used to it is because 30 years ago, we didn't have digital, you know? So people aren't used to it, but it's not any different than somebody going, look, I really don't want an album. I really just want beautiful wall prints. I bought a big, beautiful house and I have empty walls everywhere. And I would like to buy all of the empty ones, but I would still like you to capture the day of, and I'll buy them in either a bunch of frames and put them in clusters. And maybe, you know, maybe that whole spread of making cookies goes in the kitchen. I have room for it on my kitchen walls. I would absolutely do that. I think it's adorable. I would love to have that right above the stove, you know, and look at that every day while I'm cooking, you know. And I could totally see the one of all the kids in the snow in the mudroom, like as series, you know, as wall prints. In addition, there's a lot of different options. What I don't want to see you do is count out what people are willing to invest in and how much, because you don't think that it's worth it. Those are very different things. So if it's something that you absolutely don't want to do, then don't do it. It's that simple. But understand the reasons why you're not doing it, and don't do your clients thinking for you. So, and that's it. That's all the heavy hitting for the day. You know, I'm fine with you building your business around albums. You shoot like a storyteller. So it makes the most sense to me that your images go in albums, because there is the collective story as a whole. And you shoot as a storyteller for the album in general with all of the spreads together as a book. But you're also very good at knowing where the story is on the individual pages. So essentially for you, in every album, each spread becomes its own chapter of the story, and it starts and it finishes, which is really good and something that I would like you to really focus on. Just making sure of, as you're going through and you're creating your collections, like every spread that you look at should start the story and end the story itself by itself without anything else on it. Otherwise it doesn't make that spread. And I think that you hit that mark at least 75% of the time going through your albums and seeing the way that you're putting things together. Contracts and insurance is really important. You won't realize how important until you need it.
Till you
like
need
all
it.
insurances. Business marketing, I definitely think that you can touch on email. Social media is going to be a big one. Ron can definitely help you with that too, as can I. I think we're going to try to do that today as well, and have some conversation about social media. Prices, you seem to have a pretty good idea of what your overhead is and what you need to charge in order to be happy. I don't think 2 sessions a month at that price is going to be difficult for you at all once you get the initial momentum. So I think you're going to have the same kind of experience that you were saying, where you know, you feel like you're doing a lot of spinning your wheels and not really getting anywhere. It's going to be that way for the first couple of months when you start marketing too, and then it's going to do the same exact thing. It just avalanches and starts building on itself, because once you get the first couple, then you've broken into that market with other people that can afford you, and then it'll pick up from there. So I would say expect that from the day that you hang out your sign, so to speak, and go, all right, I'm ready, and really start pushing, that it'll probably take about 6 months before you hit that that start. But again, that depends on how aggressive you are. Like, you have 100 people. If you're going to email them and that's going to be your marketing, it's going to be slower going. If you go and create cards and go put them on everybody's mailbox within 3 miles of your studio, it's going to go a lot faster, because it is a numbers game. You should expect that it's about 1 to 3% is about the return that you'll get. So if you have 100 people, chances are you'll get 1 session out of it at that price.
Yep.
So the fastest way to ensure your success is to find 100 more people, and then 100 more after that.
Yep.
So, and the more qualified they are, as in people that are actually looking for what you're doing, the more that percentage will go up or down.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to chat about specifically, or that you felt like you needed some help with?
No, that's pretty much it for the next few things that I've just got to get finished up before I can start actually contacting people. So
Okay.
And I'm just working through it. It's just, I just flip the page and this is what I'm doing today, and I just keep working through it. So
Good.
I think you're right, though. It is going to just be a constant spinning wheels, and then stuff will come together, and then I think it's just going to be a thing that just always repeats itself. So
yeah, it's just life. Everything in life is that way.
So yeah.
So but you're definitely in a place where you're picking up momentum right now as far as the business. So I think you'll see a little bit of a lull as you get started, because you're doing something new with the marketing and the business side as opposed to the art. But you're definitely still, it's like we've hit the tipping point where you're going down towards success now, and we're picking up. So you're going to hit these little divots with like the marketing, but you're still definitely going to continue to pick up momentum faster than I think you would have a year ago, because you have it now. Like the art is going to sell itself for you, because the art is really, really good, and it tells the story, which is what, I think we just needed to kind of build your confidence in a little bit too, because I don't think that you were seeing it at the beginning. I don't know why you weren't seeing it at the beginning, because I was seeing it, but it's good to see it come together and to have you feel more confident about it, because I think that you can sell it now, and I think you would have had a hard time selling it at the beginning.
Absolutely. This is just exactly what I was going to say, was that it really is a confidence game, and that's really what it doesn't matter how good the art is. If you don't feel it yourself, that you're capable of it, and that you truly believe it, then it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter how good it is, right? So
yeah.
And like I said before, it's an intentional, and it shouldn't always be easy. Like you were saying, you'd think it would get easier. This being intentional about being positive and believing in it shouldn't get easier. I should always every day have to pump myself up for it and say, yeah, I can do this, and yeah, it's going to work, right? So if that starts to get easy, then there's some complacency there that I don't necessarily want to have to. I don't want to have to go down that road, right?
It's easy when you reach the plateau, because then it's flat ground. So that's always a sign that you're plateauing, which is good. It means that you've scaled that specific mountain, and gotten to the point. But that's when it's time to start looking around for what the next one is.
Because stuff shouldn't always be easy. It's the hard stuff is where the good stuff is. So
I do think now that you're in that mindset and you're training yourself, that it's a really good idea for you to kind of, hindsight's 2020, look back over the last few months and look at everything that has helped accentuate that confidence and that belief and that positivity, and what things and people and whatever you're surrounding yourself with that's really helping keep you at that point, and whatever any triggers are that are sort of negating that. And the idea is to crowd all the good stuff around you and push the other stuff further away from that, and that does make it easier.
Totally does. And that's a constant. I'm constantly doing that. I don't need to look, like I do that all the time. That's literally one of the things that I do to keep the momentum going, right? I'm always aware, I'm always trying to be aware anyway of the things that are helping as opposed to getting in the way. So sometimes it's me getting in the way, and I know that too. So.
Okay. Well, we have been on for about an hour and 20. And so I'm going to let you get back to it. I'm excited to see what you put together as the last few things. Drop me a line and let me know what you're thinking for Sphere 3, and we will go from there.
All righty.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Marjorie.
All right.
Thanks.
Nice to see you. All right.